844-204-RICH, number to dial. We've got him on from Bleacher Report because he had an incredible piece about the human element and fallout of the Astros cheating scandals. The author of Ambushed by the Astros, which you can read on BleacherReport.com right now, Scott Miller. How are you, Scott?
Hey, Rich, real good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. I guess what gave you the idea to start going to people whose careers were altered by this? Walk me through that.
Well, obviously the big, enormous story over the winter and over the last couple months of baseball has been this Astros scandal, and people can't seem to get enough of it. But we've talked so much about like what they did and the World Series in 2017, and Darvish, was he tipping his pitches? Oh no, now maybe the Astros knew it was coming, and Darvish and Kershaw, but. Beyond that, in talking with a couple of my editors at Bleacher Report, we're kind of almost brainstorming different, there's a lot more to this than just that. And, so one of them is just, that human cost, and it turned out there were a number of guys trying to cling to their careers because I think in professional sports in general, but in baseball, Rich, to me, that's the one thing, the biggest thing I think the fans the average fan doesn't realize. They say, oh, these guys are major leaguers. They have it made. The one thing I think that people don't understand is the rampant insecurity in the game at all levels. Even the superstars, they're insecure because they have to stay playing at that same level. Well, you go all the way down to the fringe guys, people trying to take their jobs, and then, maybe the guy, they have a tenuous hold on their spots anyway, and then you get to a case like the Astros in 2017 where, they knew what was coming, which pitches were going to be thrown, and, the fringe guys, so many of them, after the guy faced the Astros and get dispatched to the minor leagues later that night or the next day. And, we just wonder what was that like? And especially now when these guys are still, some of them are out of the game or some of them are clinging to their careers. And now that they know now what they didn't know then, what's their reaction now? And, there's just a human cost. We get wrapped up in numbers so much in sports in general.
Right.
But, the human cost is always interesting to me.
So, for those who have not had the benefit of reading your piece, give everyone an example of a story of somebody who got lit up and then lost their job and how they're feeling about it today. Scott.
The guy I led with, Anthony Bass, Texas Rangers 2017, and he's in the minor leagues. He's in AAA for the Texas Rangers, and he's trying to get back to the majors. He had been 2013, 14, 15, 16. He had started in the majors and not ever finished a full season, but he had pitched a fair amount. So then 2017, he's in the minors for Texas, still trying to get back to the promised land. So he was with their AAA team outside of Houston, Round Rock, and he gets a call in May. It's early May, and he's pitched in a game AAA game that night. He's back to his hotel or back to his apartment where his pregnant wife is, and he arrives late after the game, 11:30 or whatever, at night. And he gets a call from the Rangers. Hey, we're in Houston, and we're calling you up. We need you at tomorrow's game. We need you to drive there. It was like maybe a 3.5 hour drive. And so he's like, okay, so got to be there in time for tomorrow. So he drives through the night, gets there to Houston, and gets called on to pitch that day. Couple innings, gets hit pretty hard. According to the website that keeps track of all the trash can bangs, it was minimal that day, but there were some bangs when he pitched. So right after the game, gets called into Jeff Bannister's office, then the manager of the Rangers, and he says, hey, I'm sorry to do this to you, but, we're going to send you back to AAA. So he drives the 3 hours back. Meanwhile, when he got called up, it's 11:30 at night. He's leaving in a hurry for Houston. His wife says, I thought it was very poignant, says, okay, I'll see you when I see you. And in that sentence, to me, encapsulates the pride in your spouse, the hope for good things to happen. I'll see you when I see you. You know, she didn't know. He might have been in the majors. She might not have seen him for a month, until the next time they visited. Turned out one night later, he calls her, hey, I'm on my way back home, honey. And he tells me at the time, he said, yeah, I get it. We understand you get called up for one game, then sent back. It happens sometimes. So he said, actually, she was more upset than I was in the moment. She was like, geez, basically like they're abusing you. You know, they make you drive 3 hours for one game, then send you back. And little did they know at the time, it was the Astros that were doing the abusing.
It's amazing, Scott.
He didn't know.
It's just remarkable. And one of the stories that you told or had told to you involving Alex Cobb, the fact that he was told after a game by one of the Astros that he was tipping his pitches, and instead there were 20 bangs in the trash can when Cobb was on the mound. And he's put it all together thinking that not only was he cheated against, but he was having the tracks covered by a player coming across as being altruistic to help him out. What in the world is the psychology behind all that, Scott?
Yeah, I mean, it turned out the interesting thing that happened to him and Chris Archer, who at the time were in the same rotation in Tampa Bay, and it was in the same series, July 31st, August 2nd of 2017. And you can only conclude, as Alex Cobb did, that basically, somebody comes up to him and says, hey, hang with it, man. Your stuff was really good, but you were tipping your pitches. I just want to tell you. Well, the only conclusion is basically the Astros were trying to throw pitchers in other clubs off the scent of what they were doing by saying, hey, your stuff's good. Hang in there. You were just tipping your pitches. And Alex Cobb said he was a free agent that winter. He was about going into his free agent year. He was having a terrific season, and that one outing in Houston was by far his worst outing in 2017. And so he said, looking back, he felt like his pitches were pretty good, but he was just getting clobbered. And then now knowing not what he knows now, looking back, he's like, clearly – they were trying to throw me off the scent. And the problem, aside from the face value part of that, he said the psychology of a pitcher, man, when you get hit, he said, I admit it, we're like drama queens. And when we get hit hard, it feels sometimes like you're never going to have another good outing. And he said, they told me the guy wouldn't tell me what I was tipping, but it was something with my glove, he said. So right after that, as you would imagine, Cobb, his pitching coach, and other members of the Rays went to the computer, and they're watching over and over, looking for what am I doing? What is he doing with his glove? What's he tipping? And as Cobb said, now as he looks back, it was all just a bunch of wasted time. And they the fallout of it was the next several outings, he was paranoid about what he was throwing and making sure he wasn't tipping, when it turned out he probably never was in the first place.
Last one for you, Scott, is have we determined, or in what you're talking to any of these players, the extent of postseason use of this? Are we ever going to find out what actually happened? The commissioner has said that based on their evidence, this scheme was used in the 2017 postseason, and we still don't know which round it was in, unless it's on this website that you mentioned in your piece called Sign Stealing Scandal, which is a game-by-game breakdown that an Astros fans put together. Do we know, have you gleaned any information on that front as exactly what was used in the postseason by the Astros?
It's still murky. Rich, I think it's pretty clear based on what the commissioner said, what the investigation revealed, and anecdotal results. I think it's pretty clear they were doing this all the way through the World Series. I mean, every round of the postseason. Clayton Kershaw threw 50 in Game 5 of the World Series in Houston, and that was a game he got lit up pretty good. As Tom Verducci reported, he threw 51 breaking balls, and he got 0 swings and misses. I mean, that is just almost impossible to do, especially for a pitcher of Kershaw's caliber, to throw that many breaking balls and you get 0 swings and misses. So it's murky. It's pretty much based on the commissioner's report that it was going on throughout the postseason. It's probably also worth mentioning that it's believed other clubs were doing it too, just not maybe to the extent of the Astros. Maybe they didn't have it wired as well as they did. But, that's the other thing here too. I think the Astros are getting all the heat. And, I don't know that other clubs were lily clean either. But, what happened is, there was a whistleblower in the case of the Astros. Mike Fiers basically handed baseball its investigation, said, here's what happened, here's how it happened. And to your point as well, I mean, the whole video where people went crazy over saying, oh, my gosh, it looks like Jose Altuve was wearing a buzzer, and there were reports that they were wearing, as they say, wearable technology. Fiers didn't mention anything of that nature. And, of course, Manfred said, well, we investigated that, but we didn't find anything. But Manfred said, can I say with 100% certainty they were not wearing wearable technology? No, but we couldn't find anything. So that, to me, is also just another example of, baseball hasn't found a whole lot, or at least if they have, they haven't broadcast it other than, what Mike Fiers laid out.
Scott, thanks for the time, man. Great piece. Great job.
Thank you, Rich. I appreciate it.
You got it. Scott Miller, check it out. Ambushed by the Astros.